Good evening once again. Distinguished guests, respected professionals, ladies and gentlemen. It is a pleasure to welcome you all to this special technical forum organized by the Electrical, Electronics and Telecommunication Engineering Sectional Committee of the Institution of Engineers, Sri Lanka. As Sri Lanka progresses towards a more competitive and efficient electricity sector, understanding the structure, operation, and economics of electricity markets has become increasingly important. The future power sector will require engineers and decision makers to navigate not only the technical challenges, but also market mechanisms that influence investment, pricing, reliability, and system performance. Today's session, titled Deep Dive Session on Wholesale Electricity Market Modeling, has been designed to provide participants with a comprehensive understanding of emerging electricity market concepts, wholesale market structures, and practical market modeling approaches. We are privileged to have one with us, Sri Lanka's leading expert in Sri Lanka, market economics and power sector reform, who will guide us through both theoretical foundations and practical applications of wholesale market modeling. To officially commence today's program, I would now like to invite the chairman of the Electrical, Electronics and Telecommunication Engineering Sectional Committee of the IESL, Engineer Viraj Muthugala, to deliver the welcome speech. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Buddhisha. Good evening, everyone. Warmly welcome you all for today's session on wholesale electricity market modeling on behalf of our sectional committee and IESL. And also very special welcome to Dr. Narendra Silva, our resource person today, for accepting our invitation and also selecting and one of the insightful topic, timely topic for today's lecture, and also taking all the trouble in preparing all these educational material, printed materials delivered to you on behalf of the participants. And also about the topic today, we'll be discussing about the electricity markets and also competitions and rules related to electricity markets. And also we expect to explore, deeply dive into electricity market modeling aspect as well. And also I would like to encourage all of you to actively participate and engage with Dr. Narendra. I believe that the session will be very much insightful one. So please have an insightful session. And thank you. Over to you, Buddhisha.
Thank you, sir, for your thoughtful remarks and warm welcome. Ladies and gentlemen, we will now proceed to the main segment of today's program. This evening's session will explore the evolving electricity market landscape in Sri Lanka and examine how wholesale electricity markets can be represented and analyzed using established economic and mathematical frameworks. Among the topics to be covered are the emerging electricity market environment in Sri Lanka, structure and operation of wholesale electricity markets, market governance, rules and operator responsibilities, competition and efficiency within electricity markets, wholesale market modeling using the Cournot Framework, mathematical approaches to market analysis and decision making. Following the presentation, we will have a dedicated Q&A session as well as an interactive quiz session, providing our audience with an opportunity to engage directly with our speaker and test their knowledge of the topics covered during the presentation. With that, it is now my pleasure to introduce our speaker for this evening. Our speaker has made a significant contribution to Sri Lanka's electricity sector through both industry, leadership, and academia. He currently serves as the General Manager of Lanka Electricity Company and is also actively involved in higher education as a visiting lecturer at several universities. Over the years, he has played a key role in electricity sector development, power system planning, and electricity market studies while contributing to the advancement of engineering education and professional development. His expertise spans power systems, electricity market economics, regulatory frameworks, and energy sector reforms, making him uniquely positioned to guide today's discussion on wholesale electricity market modeling. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in warmly welcoming Dr. Narendra Silva to conduct today's deep dive session on wholesale electricity market modeling. Over to you, sir.
Thank you very much for the kind introduction. Today, we are going to talk about the modeling of electricity markets. This is a subject matter usually we conduct in the university environment. But there are extraordinary circumstances which promote us to take our blackboards out from universities and set up in professional institutes like IESL to conduct these mathematical lectures. So you must bear with me for dragging you back into your university days. But the circumstances prevailing within the sector today warrants such an extraordinary action. So this could be a little bit of a strenuous session. I, without any reluctance, use the blackboard and mathematics. So you must bear with me. This is not going to be kind of a usual evening session. IESL evening sessions are used to share experience. This is not that. This established knowledge. This cannot be delivered by any other method than writing equations. So let's write equations. First, I would be talking about the formation of markets. Market is a phenomena which is equivalent to evolution in biology. So the way how we are being created, animal being created, animals, my eye being created, such a delicate device was developed through a process called evolution. So economic equivalent of evolution is markets. Market basically comprises of majorly 4 elements. First thing is a space. You have a space, either physical space or cyber space or a process space. Our usual tendering is through a process space. First a space. Then buyers and sellers. You get sellers who come with material, goods, handful of stuff with empty pockets. You get buyers coming pocket full of money, empty-handed. After a noisy reaction of these 2 elements in this space over a time, after probably 5 hours, 8 hours later, you see your buyers go with empty pockets and with handful of goods. Your sellers walk out empty-handed with pocket full of money. Money has traversed one direction and the value, goods, have traversed to the opposite direction. This is a phenomena we call money for value. So this transaction is taking place. But there is a very important element, the fourth element. That is the market regulator. Without a market regulator, no market can exist. How much that regulator's presence is marked within the market is the only issue. Some markets are thoroughly regulated. Some markets are loosely regulated. However, regulator must be there. In Sri Lankan commercial market also, you have laws, sale of goods ordinance, various laws, various regulations, without which you cannot stop but exploitation of the market, both by buyers and sellers. If you want to avoid that, essentially some kind of a rule base must be there. And vibrant the market, more competitive the market, more players in the market, you can slowly reduce your regulations. You must start with a thoroughly. Even today we have an energy market. Otherwise, how that this energy is being bought and sold? Nobody is giving energy free of charge. Nobody is getting energy also free of charge. So this value to money transaction is taking place. There's a market. Today's market is 100% regulated. So what we are talking is deregulation. Deregulation is a continuous process. You can't all of a sudden get the regulator vanished. So probably 99% regulator, 1% market. After another couple of years, probably 10% market, competitive market, 90% regulated. So it's a continuous, slowly achieved process. So having said that, I will just go into another context. These markets are taking place in a larger environment. What we call economics of the country. Without understanding the context of economics, it is difficult for us to understand the operational forces of the market. Now, when you look at the economics, the area of economics that we talk about is called microeconomics. So let's look at the microeconomics. Microeconomics environment of a country. First, what you get is businesses and households. You have businesses, their purpose is different. Businesses' purpose is to earn profit. They are profit mongers. Then you have households. Their purpose is enjoyment, consumption. So whatever money that we give to households, they just straight away go to a market and spend and enjoy. So there are two elements, pleasure seekers and the profit seekers. These pleasure seekers and profit seekers meet in a particular thing called product market. What we talked is kind of a product market. So in this product market, businesses are the sellers. Businesses are the sellers. Whereas households are the buyers. So households give money to the market and take goods off from the market, as I told you. And the businesses are paid through that money, that green arrow. Businesses are paid with money and they are giving the value. They are giving goods into the market. But there is another market. There is a microeconomics. This cycle operates with another market, what we call the factor market. Myself, you can find me in the product market during the weekend. I go shopping during the weekend. But during the week, where am I? During the week, I am in the factor market. Money that I get from the factor market, I work in LECO. I sell my labor. I sell my skills. LECO buys those skills. In the factor market, I am a seller. And all the firms, businesses are buyers. There where you get money. So you get money by supplying labor. These production factors are bought by businesses and paid for. this is the economic cycle what we talk. It's clockwise, money is flowing. Anti-clockwise, value is flowing. So countries, governments strive to keep these two wheels meshed and rotate as fast as possible. More it spins, more GDP. If you look at the way how GDP been estimated, you can see this cycle. So this is through this cycle that you create value. Through this, you create wealth. In Adam Smith's famous book of Wealth of Nation, he's the one who explains this. A wealth of nation rises by the rotation of these two cycles. So in between, there is an entity which does this regulation, which ensures that these two wheels are spinning as fast as possible. That is the government. Government pay money as incentives, take money as taxes from both businesses and households. And the way how they do that is, if they do it proper, if they do it intelligently, you can get this wheel running as fast as possible. Whenever you see that the wheel is slowing down, either you must provide an incentive or you must enforce a tax so that the wheel picks. That's the government's function. So this is typical liberal economics. The picture of liberal economist is this. But the social economist, they think there is another way where the government should participate in the factor market in providing goods to the factor market, for an example like land. And same government should be in the product market, creating products and selling goods. So government not only does a financial exercise, but it physically enters into these two markets in regulations. But the issue is you have to do it very carefully. Otherwise, you will slow down these two cycles rather than accelerating the cycles. So social economists think of this. The social market economics, they think the outer cycle should dominate, but the government should intervene only when market slows down. Social economists think you must have a fixed footprint. The social market economics, the footprint is vanishing and appearing. Just keeping the leg, just you do little bit of touching on the two market sides also. So this is the environment within which the pricing occurs, especially for electricity. Because electricity is a little bit of a tricky subject matter because it exists in both the markets. It exists in the product market, in providing the domestic energy. It's a consumable. Equally, electricity is placed in the factor market. That is why this tariffing is got to be very carefully be done. Because you are doing the good that you are pricing for both the markets. So one side being correct means other side is wrong. So we have to, unless you are very well aware of this economic cycle, if you put a wrong price, probably the domestic market will go, but at the factor market, the entire economy will be slowed down. So pricing electricity is a little bit of a tricky subject matter because of this particular presence of it, or its image is present in both the markets. Having said that, I will now we are going into a little bit of away from microeconomics into macroeconomics. You have finance institutes where loans are given and the interests are taken. So there are other blocks also which expand this into the macroeconomic picture, the external world. They are coming into the factor market and goods market. So there are other blocks, but we segregate certain set of blocks to analyze the microeconomics. Having said that, I will go into little bit of background material before I come into the mathematical modeling. Demand curve. This is the characteristics. This particular curve describes the characteristic of one group of people. Who are this group? Buyers. They are pleasure seekers. Their entire business is to spend money and earn pleasure as much as possible. So if you find that mango is going to be expensive than banana, because they are not interested of mangoes. They are not interested of bananas. They are interested to get pleasure. They say, no, this time I'm not going to buy mangoes, I'm going to banana. Because banana may not be giving as equal units of pleasure as mangoes, but buying two banana would do the job. So that is how when the price is high, the quantities get reduced. One thing is a substitution effect. You substitute. Now, classic example in economics, what we teach in the university, I think most of you are my students, you were listening to me in the university, I used to explain the London, during the London blackouts or London energy crisis, 1970s, what happened? People closed down their houses, went for dinner outing. So all of a sudden, the street boutique hotels, street roadside cafeteria, business rose. So what happened? They sought pleasure by another way, rather than heating their houses and having a family time in the house. All of them went to have a dinner out, night out. This night out concept developed during this time. So that's a classic shift of cross-sectoral migration. Electricity sector shrunk and the hotel sector expanded. Demand shifted from electricity to hotels. So that's a cross-sectoral migration. We call sectoral migration. Now, when electricity is priced, people go for solar. Same electricity generated by another means. That's a sectoral migration. That's a cross-sectoral migration. So migration, substitution. Equally, there is another effect called income effect, because when the prices go high, altogether you become poor. You start, not only you reduce electricity, but you reduce consumption of everything. So it's overall shrinkage. Reduction of the debt is one thing, reduction of the width is another thing. Overall shrink of buying everything. So that is the substitute. So because of these two effects, when the price increases, demand drops. That's what this curve is all about. Equally, there is another curve. The other guys. Now I'm just explaining these two guys. Then I'm coming to modeling them. Other two, they are profit seekers. Cunning profit seekers. Stingy, greedy profit seekers. They want maximum of profits. So when they see some product price is high, they increase their production. Everybody moves into that market. That's the profit incentive effect. If shoes are costly, everybody shut down their factories and start opening shoe factories. Right? So that is, so their characteristic is entirely different to that pleasure seekers characteristic. More price means more production. If you give more price, you get more goods coming into the market. So these two categories, these guys who are coming from this side and this side, are entirely two different creatures. So what happens inside the market is one guy is trying to maximize the pleasure while other guy is trying to maximize the profit. So that's the battle. That's the battle that we are going to create, right? So if I artificially set a lower price, what will happen is that, right? What will happen is that I will get a huge demand, but I don't get enough supply. So what happens? My second example in my usual lectures. I have 100 mangoes. I set a mango 10,000 rupees and put all my 100 mangoes and sit in front of my house and start selling mangoes to the people who are going on the road. At 5 o'clock, my target is today at 5 o'clock, I'm going to sell my 100 mangoes. At 5 o'clock, I end up with having all 100 mangoes in hand. Nobody is foolish enough to buy a mango for 10,000. I understand now this is going to get not all right. I set it to 300 rupees or 1,000 rupees. There will be 1 or 2 mangoes gone, but still 98 mangoes ended up by 4 o'clock. I reduced this to 300 rupees. I don't know really what is the cost of a mango, right? Please pardon me. So let's say 300 rupees. Then I get about 50, 60 mangoes gone. I keep on reducing. At a particular day, a particular point, sharp at 5 o'clock, my last mango will go. Market clearing. Market clearing. So that is the price. So if you set higher price, you have a large supply, what you call, you got surplus. Equally, if you set at a lower price, you get a market deficit. But there is a right price. How we know the right price? We'll come to that dialogue. There's a right price. If somebody can find that, probably only the God can find it. Right price, market clearing occurs. So if you want to set the price and achieve the market, you got to be none second to God. But if you want to clear the market and thereby find the price, anybody can do that. You just start playing, somehow you get to clear the market. Moment that market clears, your price is found. That's the price. Now we are going into the deep mathematics of the business. Now we are going to model a market called wholesale market. A market called wholesale market. There are multiple of models. It's a complicated subject area. This is a subject area what we call mathematical economics. Economists are originated from 2 schools. One school is school of sociology. Sociologists become mathematicians. In Sri Lanka, the arts faculties got economics department. So that's one school of economics. Other school of economists are the mathematical school, where mathematicians become economists. So they write equations, they write formula. Through that, they try to understand, they try to model economics. And what is happening within the economy, they try to model. We as engineers, we love to say that we don't know mathematics. My mathematics is forgotten, I don't like it and all that. But remember, you all understand only with mathematics. How much you talk about something you don't understand, please recognize that. Please accept that. Your language is mathematics. So this is the problem. Now I think you have gone to 100 of market related lectures. But still you don't know how to operate a market. Why? You will not know. I'll guarantee you. You go another 200 lectures, you don't know. But if an art student go there, they will just one day they will understand, because their tool is language. They develop in their brains, the models are developed through language. You all are mathematical brains, you can't understand unless mathematical equations are written. So our school of economics is the mathematical school of economics. So today what I am going to do is to write those couple of equations. How much you howl, it's like a dentist coming and pulling your tooth out. I'm going to write the bloody equation, right? So then you will understand that, that is what is the wholesale market is all about. So this model was developed by Cournot. The model that I'm going to use is called the Cournot model. He was developing this in 1865, 1877, 1801 to 18. This is very old. set of equations. So world has developed so much today, probably it may not be that difficult to understand. Now, let's say you have a monopoly. You have one firm. I never put a generator there because this is common for any firm. So you have a firm. And this firm, there is no regulation, there is no law. This is a lawless country. There are poor group of people, and there is a rich guy who has come and set up a business. So this entire poor group is entirely on the governance of this particular company. They are going to sell the product. What do you think? Immediately as I explain this, you will think this guy is going to exploit this thing and set the price at any value. And this price will be unlimited price. Nobody knows what is happening. That's not what's going to happen. That's not what's going to happen. Let's see mathematically what happens. So first I will set the environment for me to write the equation. This firm sells Q quantity, Q number of mangoes into the market. Market is having this demand curve. So based on the demand curve, this Q quantity cannot be sold for any other price than P. So you have to set the price at P. So he's pushing Q quantity, but the market says, I will buy that only for P. So he got a yield of PQ. Price is P, he's selling Q quantity, so PQ. He gets an earning of PQ. And he got a cost. Unit cost is C. So he got a cost of CQ. So first the market is modeled as A minus BQ. That's the sloping line, right? Y equals mx plus C. So you have a negative gradient. P equals A minus BQ. Minus BQ plus A, right? And profit is P minus C per unit. You get a revenue of P, you get a cost of C, P minus C into Q. That's my profit. So if I go to Excel and just try to see what happens, I would say that in my demand curve, right? I will say A is 160,000 and B is 50, right? So my equation is P equals A minus BQ. That's my equation, right? I will just check one point, right? Just to see what the price, what this equation is all about, right? I will just write the other equation, subjecting the Q. Q equals A minus P divided by B. A minus B divided, A minus P, sorry. A minus P divided by B. That's my, if I want to calculate Q, then of course, that equation and this. I would say my night demand is 2,700 megawatts, or for that hour, energy is 2,700 megawatt hours. If I want to see the price, I would say this minus this into 50. 25,000 25 rupees per kilowatt hour, 25,000 rupees per megawatt hour. So at 2,700 megawatts, I'm thinking of the 1 hour in the peak, the price is 25 rupees. So the equation looks all right, right? Now, if I just see what is the shape of this curve, I would say I am setting, let's say this stingy businessman set the price. Once when he set the price, you get a Q, quantity. And that Q, the cost of production would be his C into Q. I will put the cost C as 18 rupees per kilowatt hour, 18,000. ₹18,000. So 18 rupees per kilowatt hour. I would say the cost and then the revenue and profit. Now let's say he sets a price of 120 rupees per kilowatt hour. Very high price because he's a greedy guy, right? 120,000. And what is the quantity? Quantity is given by the second equation, A minus P divided by B. Price is, quantity is 800 megawatt hours. At 120 rupees, you can sell only 800 megawatt hours. Now let's see what's the cost. So you have a 800 kilowatt hours multiplied by 18,000 rupees. 14.4 million cost incurs for that particular hour. And what is the revenue? Revenue is P. That's the rate at which I sell, right? Multiplied by Q. 96.6 million. 96 million. So you have a revenue of 96 million. So what's the profit? Profit is revenue minus cost. You have a 81.6 million rupees profit per this hour. That's clear, no? Now let's say this guy becomes even a little bit more stingy. Right? He wants to increase this price to 130,000. 130 rupees per kilowatt hour. Let's see what happens. Profit get reduced. So by increasing the price, profit didn't increase. His fundamental idea was that the profit is going to increase. But what happened was the quantity get reduced, exceeding his price escalation. So his cost also got reduced because he's generating a lesser. Just give me a second. Because I have got this thing connected to my tab to write on the board. I'm going to write on the board also. So when telephone call comes, what happens is the whole link got messed up. So, okay. So profit got reduced. So this is the important phenomenon. By merely increasing price, even with the single monopoly, you can't increase profits. You can't increase profits. So looks like the way forward is not that. Probably you will go 110,000. Now the profit got increased. So reducing the price increase the profit. So let's see how it happens. Let's say we'll reduce the price up to 10 rupees. You see, somewhere 90,000 rupees, right? There's a maximum. And thereafter it get reduced. So this is a kind of a new phenomenon. Any profit seeker will not exceed his rate more than 90,000. So beyond that, he's reducing his profits. So our perception of monopoly is wrong. He has a particular price inside that. He won't go beyond that. He won't go beyond that. So let's see how exactly this happens. So my E is A minus BQ. That was my demand curve, right? My demand curve. A is there and my gradient is B. And I have a cost called C. And my profit is P minus P into Q. That is A minus BQ minus C into Q. A minus CQ minus BQ square. It's a quadratic equation. That's why this maximum was there. So you can find the maximum. If you say dabba phi by dabba cube, you get A minus C minus 2BQ. You say if Q is Q star, your dabba phi by dabba Q is 0, right? You can find your Q star. Your Q star is A minus C minus 2BQ star equals 0. I take 2BQ star to the other side. So your Q star would be A minus C divided by 2B. Right? So A is 160,000 minus 18,000 divided by 2 into 50, 100. This 142,000 divided by 100 is 1,420. And the price is 160,000 minus 50 into 1,400. This is, I switch off the phone, isn't it? No, I got it. Thank you. $89,000, right? So piece or 89 rupees per kilowatt hour. That was the price. So he will not increase his price. That was which came as 90 for us. He will not increase it more than 89,000. This is the important outcome. Having said that, I'll go back to my, close this down and go back to my presentation, right? So what we did was this, W 5 by W Q, and your Q is A minus C divided by 2B. And your P is A plus C plus divided by 2. These are the prices at which the monopoly settles. No regulator, no rules, nothing, but he won't, there is a self-regulation. What is the self-regulation? The self-regulation is the negative slope of the demand curve. If you didn't have this curve, negative slope, he can continue, he can do that exploitation. He can continue because demand is not shrinking. It was the shrinking effect of the demand, that migration, that substitution effect created this self-regulation. So if you don't have substitutions, if you don't allow substitutions to take place, if you kill other alternatives, try to, that is what is called monopolization. You kill substitutions and you corner the situation that if you want it, you got to buy it from me, this is my price. So mango monopoly can exist only, not that mango supplies are not there. No banana supplies. No other fruits. It's only mangoes. Then you can do that. So that's the value of substitutions in the market. You must not kill the substitutions. But there is another exploitation, what the economists actually talk about. The exploitation that we as engineers think is not the real exploitation. In this particular thing also, there is an exploitation. What is that exploitation? You see, the cost is 80 rupees. So our cost reflective tariff would have been 18 rupees. For that, there is a supply of 2,840 megawatts. So now what happened? The cost was set at 89 rupees, 89,000 rupees per megawatt hour. And what is the demand? 1,420. So there is a 1,420 megawatt demand, which is being curtailed because they didn't have money to buy. They are ready to buy that at 18 rupees. But they can't afford to buy it at 89 rupees. So once in this guy all alone set it at 89 in order to maximize his profits, what the consumers got to do is to tighten their belts and reduce their demand. Just just one bulb shining, they reduce their demand in order for them to survive. So that is the exploitation, not that exploitation what we think as a wide world exploitation, but there is an exploitation. But it's a finite exploitation. He will also go and settle somewhere, but the settlement is not beneficial for the buyer, right? Is there any beneficial value for the buyer below 18,000 rupees? No. But below 18,000 rupees, business will not last. They'll close down the factory. Then you don't have madana. They cut all the mango trees and finish the business. So please understand, there is no curve beyond 18,000. It's always we are talking about above 18. Above 18,000, there is a benefit called profit that people will come and grow mango trees. So only when you grow mango trees that you get mango. So, but that guy going far, far away to 89 is the issue. Keeping the guy somewhere 19, 20, 25 is all right. So so monopolies drive markets into scarcity and earn high profits. They drive markets into scarcity. They don't produce. By not producing, they create a higher price, then they hit the profits. Now then let's look at the oligopoly. Two firms. What will happen? One produce Q1, second one produce Q2. How much you yawn, I'm not going to stop this, right? As I tell that in university, right? I think most of you are there in my lectures. I used to start a little bit late, probably half an hour late, but goes on probably 5-6 hours. Your expressions of being boring, that doesn't affect me. So please curtail those effects to yourself and you may listen. So production volume of firm 1 is Q1, production volume of firm 2 is Q2. So one is producing Q1, second one is producing Q2, and the market get Q1 plus Q2. And based on that, he's giving a price. That P is based on Q1 and Q2. And market earnings, but though is one is PQ1, other one is PQ2. And their costs are also different. Now, two firms. Still the demand curve is P equals A minus BQ. But my Q is now Q1 plus Q2. So my demand curve is A minus B Q1 plus Q2. Now my profit one, first guy's profits, is A minus B Q1 plus Q2 or P minus C1 into Q1. That is A minus B Q1 plus Q2 minus C1 into Q1. So this is A minus C1 Q1 minus B Q1 squared plus 2 Q1 Q2. Sorry, Q1 Q2. Just no Q1 Q2. Right? Equally, phi 2 is A minus B Q1 plus Q2 minus C2 into Q2. So this is A minus C2 Q2 minus B Q1 Q2 plus Q2 square. What is that? I think the screen has stopped. Huh? No, it's not scrolling. let's see if I go to I'll go. That one got stuck. I'll go with the slides. It's okay. I managed to write what is required. Only thing is okay. That's where we were, right? And those two we wrote. And that's when I substitute P from A minus BQ total, right? Now I write this as AQ1 minus BQ1 squared minus BQ1 Q2 minus C1 Q1, right? So if I put daba phi1 over daba Q1, it would be A minus 2BQ1 because B squared, no, minus BQ2 minus C1. Daba phi2 by daba Q2 is A minus BQ1 minus BQ2 minus C2. Because this side you that in terms of 2, I just have made a mistake. It's not phi1, it's phi2, right? So ultimately, you come to when this daba phi1 over daba Q1, daba phi2 over daba Q2 equals to 0, you can solve it for Q1 and Q2. So both firms, there is a solution. That's interesting. Now there are two firms, both tries to maximize profits. There is a point where both firms get maximum profit. When Q1 is particular value and Q2 is particular value. Based on their cost, both firms can maximize. So there is even for two firms, you have a balancing point. You have a balancing point. Where is that balancing point? You see, I just plotted A equals 160,000, B is 50. Two generators, C1 is 20,000 and C2 is 18,000. There is a Q1 of 920 megawatts. Q2 is 960 megawatts. Q total is 1,880 megawatts. And price is 66 rupees. At 66 rupees, these two firms, without any regulation, nothing, autonomously set, because if one firm is at 960, other firm reduces a bit. That's what I have done here. If one is, red one is 920, other one reduces a bit, the profits change. So both parties got to stick on to their assigned points, then only their profits are maximum. So this is entirely different overview of what we feel and what we know. We think that both firms can get together and just keep on increasing. That's not the case. Beyond a particular point, if they increase, all of them are going to collapse the market. Because people don't have money, indefinite money. You can't just keep on increasing the electricity price. Right? People will. I'll tell you another story. I think Mr. Seram remembers. Mr. Felix, there was a deputy minister during this Pratvat's time. Right? We went, I think Mr. D.C. Vijayaratna, myself, we went and talked about the tariff increase. At that time, I was not in CEB, but I was just involved in this tariff business around the ministry. And he said, Mataro, Terenne, me another Felix to Gila Katanga. So he went and talked to Felix Perra. Felix Perra, no? Felix Perra. Then me ඔහෙලගේ ඕක නම් මට ඕක තේරෙන්නේ නැහැ මොකක්ද එකක් කියලා මේ ඕක බෑවයි ඕක නම් හරියන වැඩක් නෙමෙයි. මට නම් ඕක පාර්ලිමේන්තුවේ ගෙනියන්න බෑ. ඕක ඔය ගණන් වැඩි කළාම ඕකේ මේ අඩු වෙනෝනේ ඔය මිනිස්සුන්ට සල්ලි තියෙන බෑ ඔහෙලා හිතන විදිහට. ඔය නෑ සර් එහෙම නෑ ඔය ඩිමාන්ඩ් ඉලාස්ටිසිටි කියලා එකක් තියෙනවා සර්. හරි තමුසල ඉලාස්ටික් එක ඕන එකක් කියනවා දාගන්නකො මේ මං ගිහිල්ලා කියන්නම් හැබැයි මං කියන්නම් ඔය වැඩේ වරදිනවා පුතාලා. He presented it to the cabinet, then we got the increase. Exactly as he told. CB is again making losses. The problem was the demand reduced. We get a huge hike, right? I'm usually behind these big price hikes, right? So afterwards he came and said, ඔයාලට කිව්වා නේද? අපි බිත්තර බිස්නස් කරන මිනිස්සුනේ ඇයිසේ? අපි දන්නෝ බිත්තරේ ගාන රුපියල් 50ක 75 කරොත් එහෙම බිත්තර විකුණ ගන්නත් බෑ කිකිලියොත් විකුණලා තමයි වැඩේ ඉවර වෙන්නේ. Demand elasticity. Right? Demand elasticity. So this is what regulates the market. That egg businessman knew that he cannot keep on increasing the price of the egg. Then the demand reduces. They can't get together and make a cartel and keep on increasing the egg price. People stop eating eggs. So it will reduce. It will collapse the market. So there is even for oligopoly, there is a balancing market. There's a balancing point. But there is an interesting phenomenon. That is that now oligopoly settles at a lower point. And oligopoly provides more customers with service. Now 1,880 megawatts hours. And the price is 66 rupees. Oligopoly has brought, without any regulation, without any control, oligopoly itself trying to maximize their profit. They get profits maximized, but the profits that the monopoly earns, now both the guys are earning lesser. So that is where the mathematics proves of settlement of the oligopoly. This is done by this particular set of mathematics was done by a mathematician called John Hickings, who got the Nobel Prize. So he's the one who first time wrote this equation and showed that earlier people thought monopolies and oligopolies can just keep on increasing tariff and prices and you can flourish like anything. He showed no. Moment that the second guy comes, profits drop. Now if I write, unfortunately my synchronism went, but you will be relieved with a bit of mathematics. So I'll go with the slides. I'm not very comfortable with lecturing in slides. You know, I used to write on the board. But somebody was praying, I suppose. So when you can write the same set of equations, because every firm you can write W phi by W Q. So if you have 10 firms, you get 10 equations. And you have 10 unknowns, Q1, Q2, Q10. So 10 equations, 10 unknowns you can solve. When you solve it, you get Q1, Q2, Q3, Q10. Firm values. So same thing you can do for n number of firms also. So when you write that, I just took a special circumstance of this where all prices are the same, or the costs are the same, C's are the same. So when you have that, you have Q of A minus C over B, 1 over N plus 1. And price is A plus NC over N plus 1. The most important thing is this. When you let the N to go to infinity, the price settles at 18 rupees. When the number of firms increase, just like the oligopoly was 89 rupees per kilowatt hour, monopoly settled at 66 rupees per kilowatt hour. If you increase this number, the red curve, the axis is on the other side, is the profitability of this company. The profitability starts on 70%, comes down to 10%. And the price reduces from 89 80,000 rupees or 89 rupees down to somewhere 20, some 18. It is coming into 18. So when you have hundreds and hundreds of companies competing with each other, what happens is this mathematical model shows you that the price comes down. Price comes closer to, all of their profits are now being reduced, and the price comes down to this 18,000 rupees. So this is the whole dialogue, whole idea of this business. You need a lot of competitors. No regulation, no law, no rule, nothing. Merely introducing competitors will reduce. This is what the economists are telling. This is what we didn't understand before writing these equations. We heard this multiple of times, isn't that so? When the competition is high, the price reduces. The real mechanism of reducing is this. What happens is everybody tries to increase the profits, but when the people are trying to supply more and more, everybody tries to. So when you have 10 firms, all 10 firms increase little bit, the total demand goes. So when the total demand is divided into 10 groups and allocated to each person. So each person's economy and the larger economy are in the order of 10. So that's what it happens. I just did the calculation for 10 firms. A is 16,000 rupees, B is 50, C is 18,000, N is 10. You see the Q is 285.18. That is into 10 is the total served demand. That is 2,815. And the price is 30 rupees. So market, when N is 10, it drops to 30, 31. This is the Cournot model and the outcome of the Cournot model. So this tells you something very important. You must set the players before setting the market. Without setting the players, don't set the market. You will be going upwards. Right? If you have 5 firms, if you set up a thing, your N equals 5. Market is the starting. And if you don't have rules in such a thing, guys will start getting together. One company will buy the other company. Even if they don't buy, the both will get together and say, we are a one company. We are a holding company. They will find the name. Once in moment that these 5 start becoming 3, price will go up and profitability goes up. So even it will converge into a monopoly. So that is because you see the profitability goes up towards monopoly. So first, get the players set. You must have substantial 10, 15 players in the system. Second thing is, get your rules right. They cannot collude. They cannot create cartels. Anti-competitive law. But that is, country must have very strong anti-competitive laws prevailing. Even just writing an email in America, even if you write an email to another company, can trigger anti-collusion claim. So if I'm writing, if the 2 CEOs or if the 2 owners in a nightclub, if they meet, that is material for anti-collusion. So that kind of a very strong control must be established. So market rules must have very strong market rules. You must have very competitive players. When you have that background being set, then you can set the market. Then the market will come somewhere closer to your cost-reflective pricing and settling. But if you don't have any of these two, your trend would be upward, climbing and going into a monopoly. So, but there is one small method that you can control this. So I'll finally come to that. If you have certain parameters of the market being controlled through regulation, then you can, even with small number of competitors, you can have this. I have just simulated with a price cap of 50,000 rupees. Right? Price cap of 50,000 rupees. What happens to that curve? I have just taken the monopoly curve. Monopoly curve augments to a curve like that, the red curve. Now the red curve got the maximum, not at the monopoly maximum. So red curve. So because these competitors or firms, they don't know this curve. This curve is a model of what they are doing. So they will try to maximize profit. They will keep on increasing their quantity, but at a particular point, they will hit the maximum. That maximum is that one. So with this price cap, when you do the mathematical modeling, you will find that there you can augment, you can shift your peak towards lesser pricing and more quantities being produced. So second model, I've done the same thing for the oligopoly, two curves. I put the same demand curve, price cap demand curve. Because price cap demand curve, what happens is whatever the lesser demand, still the market will be one thing, but you are not paying that. You price cap. Then the curve is, again, there are two peaks separated as previous, this 18,000 and 20,000 curves. But now the peak has come down. So the way forward is this. If we want to set up wholesale markets with lesser number of competitors, you must have very strong set of rules, very strong set of regulations, price cap, there are other regulations also. And what I am simulating here is a very simple Cournot model. The power system is not this. Power system is even not a glimpse of this. The first and the simplest of complication of the power system is the flow gates. You get certain transmission lines that you can't deliver more. It's not certain. Every transmission line, you can't deliver anything more than the particular rated value. So when you do this, you must run a load flow in the background, right? And this optimization equation should operate on top of this load flow. That's what we call optimum load flow. The optimization is done together with load flow. If there are anybody who is in my master's class, we are doing that optimum load flow equations. So in optimum, if you write those equations, those optimization, and let all the profits to be maximized, you will see that the situation becomes entirely different. Because these guys cannot maximize profits because this flow gate start operating. So moment the flow gate operates, we put a penalty on these guys. So they don't go to that full pitch. So when you introduce these flow gates, or basically when you do your optimum power flow and model this thing on this Cournot model. Cournot model is the usual wholesale market model. You can see that the real power system cannot be operated even with 10, 15 operators. You cannot do that without strong regulations. So my contention upon this is you must have this market liberalization is not an act. You can't create markets by acts. For that regard, wholesale market is already there. I can write to the ministry saying, all now market being set. Market is there, no? So that's the market. That's it. Wholesale market is already there. Right? So that's simply because that you have something in the act, you can't, that's not it's not the spirit of doing it. Spirit of doing it is converting the electricity market into a competitive environment and transparent environment and getting the maximum for the nation and the users. If you want to do that, how you should do it is that you must start from what we have and call this a wholesale market. That's the first thing. This is what we have is the wholesale. Already capacity market is there in the country. What we buy are the capacity. You don't tender for megawatt hours, have you? See, every tender I have seen is for megawatts. 200 megawatt power plant, 500 megawatt power plant, isn't that so? So that is what? Capacity market. As I told at the beginning, markets can exist in physical spaces, cyber spaces, or process spaces. These are process-based market. You call a tender, you open it, competitively clear it, and then you get the regulator's approval. And that's a standard process market. So already we have a capacity market. The energy market is already mentioned within the capacity tenders that is there. So dispatch, payment for them, that is there. But all what we have to do is to take the spirit of it. And now probably it is 100% regulated, 0% competitive. Let's make it probably 90% regulated, 10% competition. You bring certain elements into the competitive market and start operating a small competitive market. Then you, by that, the supply environment start getting brewed, start getting organized. Once in that comes, you just go to 80%. You put another set of energy out into the market. Then another chunk of energy, either day or time-based energy, or some quantity-based, some particular technology-based energy. You put it out. Likewise, slowly you release energy into the market to a point where you come down to about 30-40% regulated, 70-80% competitive market. Still, regulations will exist. Those controls will exist, without which, if it's a huge, large market with hundreds of players, probably we can go for very light regulation. Let the competition to prevail and organize. But if it is not so, you cannot. You know, this liberal economist, certain economists believe that large number of players in competition can, these are all economic theories, right? Can create this particular kind of a very competitive market, getting prices reduced. You know the counter argument guys, what they are saying. The counter argument guys give an example for this. They say these guys believe that you have a huge heap of steel and there's a very strong wind blowing through this steel. And these fellows are the kind of guys who believe that after millions of years, you are going to get a fighter aircraft near that heap of steel. Because the steel can come on one and then hit on the other, and likewise, ultimately it get bent, and ultimately a fighter aircraft being made. So this is the other economists say that these guys believe such a thing. All what will happen is messed up heap of steel. Pieces will be here and there, but again, it's the same mess. They say what you have to do is you have to set up a wind plant and you have to set up a workshop. You must have a plan and you must have somebody, some mechanical worker working there. Then you can expect 100,000 years or million years later, you are going to see one day you are going to see the aircraft. Every 10 years when you come and see, you see small part of an aircraft being done. Then you get the feeling, now I'm going to get my aircraft. Probably 10,000 years later, I'm going to see the aircraft. So the other faculty of economists say, this business is not going to work. The regulations, control. But of course, the market must be there. Controlled, regulated market. So that's the second school of economics. So most likely the Sri Lankan market, when we are setting up, it's us who are going to set it up, nobody else. It must be within our domain. We must set it up. But we must set it up in such a manner that firm regulations, firm existence of regulator, then the market, then you come to that particular term called deregulation. Then little by little, deregulation is reducing the regulation, that's so. Little by little, you can allow it to go for the market forces, probably 10, 15 years later. So that's the bottom line. So that's what I told. These monopolies, oligopolies, and markets, they start reducing the price. But regulated markets can hit. You can get this thing artificially hit by a regulated market. That's all problem. Thank you very much. Any questions? Or is it entirely a question? Single question, big question. This is the time of talking. During the lecture, I said nobody can talk. Remember my set of rules, no, nobody can ask questions. In a university, when you say nobody can ask questions, that's a very, nasty thing to say. Lecturers say, you all are welcome. When I go to the class, I say, nobody, no questions, right? I'm the boss, I'm telling this, you guys listen. So usually in lectures, you don't get this time. I finish, I'll strain the lecture more than the time allowed and just vanish off. But you all, Institution of Engineers, got a special treatment. You can ask questions. No, actually, what it happens is always the capacity market is as same as what we get. Even in Britain, after about 30, 40 years now, still capacity market is only thing what happens is capacity period. Now, we usually go for 20-year purchase. If you purchase a generator, it's for 20 years. But in British or American capacity market, it would be for 4 years or 5 years. But still 4 years for 200 megawatts, you put a tender and buy the cheapest generator for the capacity. Energy is a different story. We are not now in our bids. We say your capacity charge is this much, your energy charge is this much. Energy is, of course, now our market is fairly good because what we get is energy is a pass through, isn't that so? So energy, you can't have profits or anything. You have just a pass through. It's only a question of calorific value. So other than the calorific value business, it's a pass through cost. So in typical capacity market, that part of the tender is missing. You only get 200 megawatts, and upon the delivery of energy of 90% or something, once the capacity be improved, you get the capacity charge. For that, you commission the generators. What you really do is you get the guys into the room, into the energy market. They are the guys who got the ticket to enter into the wholesale market. So only the guys who got the capacity. Now these firms come and sit in the energy market. Now they bid. They can now bid to now I say the demand is this much, then they will start bidding. So that's how the capacity market and the energy market reconcile. So capacity market is the ticketing office, ticket selling office. Unless you get a ticket, you can't come into the wholesale market. Capacity is open, those tenders open every 4 years or every 5 years, you open that. So guys who are already there, they will come and bid for then every 5 years, this price also sometimes comes down. They start from higher price, then they start coming down. Next 5 years, they won't go for the same capacity. If they go for the same capacity, now they have built a power plant, they lose the capacity. Then what to do? You have to sell the power plant to another guy. So because of that reason, they will come. Usually, fresh power plant got higher capacity. Once when their loans come down, their loan premiums come down. So with that, you reduce your, and you come to a lesser capacity charge in next 5 years. Likewise, every 5 years, the guys are coming with to buy a ticket. Once when you get the ticket, you get a seat reserved in the wholesale market. Then you can come sit down and do your energy business. That's how it happens. Thank you for the question. Very good. Thank you for that question. That's very important part that probably I missed in my lecture also. Now, the market, there are two things. One thing I talked about this now, competition and artificial introduction of competition through regulations. There's another very important aspect of markets. That is the market segregation. Market denomination. You must design the market in such a manner that the people can compete. Right? If you put banana, mangoes, and fish into the market, then you can't set a competition with the entire two different products. So these different products cannot compete. So usually what you do is first thing is you based on energy you segregate. The British market, how it happens is, first of all, time-based segregation. Day ahead market separated into hours. 1400 hours bid. They open now. 1400 hours. Sometimes what they do is they segregate the capacity wise. 1400 hours, first 100 megawatt hours. Bid is open now for 1400 hours tomorrow, first 100 megawatt or first 1000 megawatt hours. Then they go for the second 1000 megawatt hours, third 1000 megawatt hours, or first 500 megawatt hours, second 500 megawatt hours, third 500 megawatt hours. So that is the first level of segregation. Second level of segregation is market is not a single room, but multiple cluster of rooms. You put the furnace oil market is one thing. Renewable market is another thing. Hydro market is another thing. So you put 500 megawatts to hydro market, 300 megawatt for oil market, 200 megawatt hours for renewable market. So you segregate technology by source. Why is this? Because you don't want apples and pears and fish in the same market. So you need apples and pears probably would sit in the same market, but you don't need fish to be there. So first the categorization, that's why I said these numbers, regulation, and this, you brought a very important point that I missed, market structure. This, unless you do that proper, if you put eggs and bananas and milk into the same thing, you're creating a real mess. Yes, what I think is there is only inside the IESL and in this, right? I'm also part and parcel of the power system. So commenting on power system is kind of a tricky job, but in the professional institute, I can do that. What I feel is they have misunderstood the roles. NSO's job is to national system operate the system. That's it. He's the market. He's the market operator. Market operator and market designer are two different things. My way of looking at it is it's entirely regulator's job. It was already fully regulated because we must appreciate the fact that it's a very well regulated system now. whatever attitude we have of the regulator, it is, if you give marks, our system is a substantially well-regulated system. So now we have a regulated system. Now little by little, it's got to be relaxed towards the market. That's the thing what we are talking about. So this has to be done initially by the regulator. That relaxation should be, because he's the guy who knows this all potentials. He should little by little start this market structuring and little by little releasing. At a particular point, when you cross the 50-60% marker, then the market dominancy comes in. Then the controls goes to the NSO, market operator, not system operator. A more like national market operator. So in NSO, there are two bodies. National system operator is there, national market operator is there. So this national market operator part start becoming stronger and stronger, and ultimately market becomes stronger than the regulator. Then probably you can usher or shovel off substantial volume of responsibility of structuring the market into this AMO or the NEMO. But even in Australia, what is happening is it's not NEMO who is taking care of its business. Market structuring, market rule base, everything is even today done by regulation and policy. Because market operator's business is different. Market operator is the guy who sits in the Delkanda Pola, issuing tickets to the sellers, allocating the spaces, right? And if somebody fights, you just go there and slap the bugger and put him out. That is the market operator's job. So he's operating the market, right? So market clearing, on the evening you clear the way and you make the payments, you collect money. He will have a collection office. He has a payment office. So collection office get all the payments and then they do the market clearing, finally cleared. So that is his job. That market structuring and where that in the Kandapola, where that's a different thing. That's a market architecture. Market architecture should come into that. At the beginning, it must be started with the professional way of looking at it is that it must be started from the regulator's end. Any more questions?
Prices somewhat high. Then due to that, actually, the public is going for hybrid solar and also batteries, off-grid solar and all that. So I have two questions. One is that the kind of a market that you are talking also? Will that frame into that? Because when you see, it has actually come because of the utilities has make their tariff high. That is one thing. Other thing is how much they can keep on increasing this tariff until they vanish. Actually, if you know if let's say TB kind of structure now is 5 companies, so they have to build power plants and transmission lines, and all this marginal cost will be somewhat higher. But due to these batteries and solar and all, so the people are getting moved away from the grid, and then that is, of course, a competitive. That's for competitive for especially EDL and also LECO. So how much that they can increase? Shed on some light.
Yes. Thank you very much for that question. Actually, you saw that market got an upper bound. You can't keep on increasing the prices. There are two things what is happening when you increase price. One thing is the substitution effect. Other one is the income effect. substitution effect is somewhat all right. Because when you increase the price of mangoes, they go for bananas. At least they get the pleasure. Income effect is very bad, very serious. How much time I got? Can I take 10 more minutes? This is something that post lecture stuff, but I'll take 10 minutes because this question is very important and opens another regime that I never thought of talking here. But I made a couple of slides for this. This little bit of difficult mathematics, but let me do this because this is important. This question is very important. This is called consumer choice theory. This attracted Nobel Prize in 1972. This particular thing called consumer choice theory. Until this theory being done, people didn't know why that people do take another choice instead of one choice. Mathematician called John Hitch made this proposal, and thereafter people accepted, people start understanding this. This is called the indifference curve. This is one side is eggs, other one is milk. This is the same example that he took. He said, Beth, there is a girl called Beth. Beth is living in a world where only eggs and milk are there. Beth lives by egg and milk. Beth derives pleasure from eggs and milk. Right? And this particular curve for Beth is having various multiple of packages. One package got high number of eggs and lesser number of milk. Another package got medium number of eggs and medium number of milk. Another package got large amount of milk and small number of eggs. But for Beth, all of them give the same amount of pleasure. For Beth, selecting one basket from the other has no difference. Because Beth is deriving the same pleasure out of any of these baskets. Because of that, John Hitch called these are indifference curves. For Beth, it is indifferent. Whatever this basket or this basket is indifferent. Whether she gets 40 eggs and 6 liters of milk or 10 eggs and 10 liters of milk, for her, both the same. She's a pleasure-driven animal, no? All what she seeks is pleasure, isn't that so? So both baskets gives her the same pleasure. And I'll just skip that part, right? Now this green curve. Green curve has a lesser pleasure. It's a set of baskets. This in front you have blue baskets. That's high level of pleasure. Second basket set is second. You have seen in supermarket, you get this hampers, 15,000 hampers. One got a whiskey bottle. It doesn't have much of other stuff. One doesn't have whiskey bottle, got other stuff. However, so that kind of pleasure layers, right? So Beth's indifference curves. And there is another thing. If Beth gets this for free, that's a different story. Beth spends money for this. Beth got certain amount of money. Beth got only 3,000 rupees. Right? For 3,000 rupees, let's say egg is 50 rupees. Beth can buy only 60 eggs. If she buys only eggs. If she buys only milk, she can buy 10 bottles of milk, 10 liters of milk. So this is Beth's budget line. So what John Hitch did was, just like we used to analyze the diode, we draw the diode curve and the balance circuit curve. Same thing, Beth's pleasure curve and the Beth's expense curve. Right? When Beth's pleasure curve meets the expense curve, that is the place where Beth will order. Bet won't buy all these baskets because each basket got a different price. She'll come down to the lowest price and buy it. That's what John said. Now, if X price is increased to 75 rupees, so now for 3,000 rupees, Beth can buy only 40 eggs. But she can buy the same 10 milk. So the line is there, the red line, right? Now, if she got this other line, how to shift her line from, let's say now the eggs price went up, now it's 75 rupees. Beth's line was red one. And if I want to make Beth's curved dotted line, what shall I do? That is 40 rupees, 4,000 rupees line. She's got 50 milk, 50 eggs and 3,150 rupees line. So parallel lines are the higher budget lines. You get more money. When you get more money, parallelly this shifts. If one get priced compared to the other more, gradient changes. So that's how the budget line works. Now John drew the pleasure curve and the budget curve on top of each other. Now, if I move along the budget line, right? Or if I move along the budget line, it got various pleasures. There is one point where the pleasure line and the budget line touches. That's the maximum pleasure that she can get from this 3,000 rupees. That's the basket which will give maximum pleasure for her 3,000 rupees. That is the basket that she will pick. This is called the customer choice theory. Until this theory, nobody knew why one person select one basket against the other. So he gave a mathematical modeling. This is mathematical economics, right? That's what I told you, the same class of economics that we were talking. That is the point where the Beth will pick the basket. Oh, that's the basket. Isn't that so? Electricity prices increased. Gradient falls. Now, where does the Beth stands? You come to the touching point, and that is the place where the now what happens is, moment the electricity price goes up, she has to settle with a lesser pleasure. So because electricity is costly, now the settling point is on a lesser pleasure. People's pleasure get reduced in whole. Because they don't have money to spend for other things also. They reduce electricity demand as well as they reduce their other demand. So because they have grown poorer. Now, if I keep the same gradient and shift this line up, you get another point touching the same pleasure. That is in the same ratio of electricity to other goods. If I start giving money to Beth comes and tells me that now electricity price has gone very high. I am very unhappy now. I am very unhappy girl now. And I also get upset about it. And I increase her salary. But electricity price is the same. So the gradient remains the same. Now her budget line increased. Do you think she goes out and use the same amount of electricity as she did before? No. I asked her, how much of bill you have got increase? Sir, 15,000. I gave 15,000. Your salaries increased 50 because the electricity went out and LECO is an electricity business company. Our people should not suffer by electricity price increase. And I go to the board and tell various rubbish and got the salary increase. Now, do you really think her previous bill was 20,000? Right? An increase to 35,000. Do you think really she will put all that 15,000 in this? No. She'll use probably 8,000 on electricity, 7,000 on other things. That's what it indicates. When the budget line increases, it hits not on the same curve, same point. It hits in a, there actually the electricity consumption is lesser, right? Other consumption is higher. So that is the point where Beth will use electricity. So this Nobel one theory says that is the substitution effect. And that is the income effect, right? So the answer to your question is there. When you increase electricity prices, two things happen. People migrate into alternative products. One thing. That is somewhat okay. Unless you all jump into the business and kill solar and mess up the thing so that nobody can do anything other than buying electricity. Then they will come and kill you all. Right? Then that's a different business. Then you have to, the different business. Now, if you don't do it, if you let the substitutes to prevail, right? Somebody recently told me that now this solar and all that. I said, now solar, now in my home, when I cross the 180 rupees marker, somewhere on 17th or 18th day of the month, I shut down my electricity connection and run diesel. It's economical. Right? So forget solar. Now, if people start doing this, what? So that's the thing. You can't keep on increasing because there are other alternatives. People will switch into there. Right? So cross-sectoral migration, they will move into LNG, they will move into other energy forms, or they will do cross-migration. They'll switch it from the main switch itself and go to a pub and eat and drink and come late at 11 o'clock and sleep there. Right? So cross-sectoral migration, anything can happen. So you can't keep on increasing this. So what I wanted to tell you was, this substitutional effect is much better, much socially acceptable, much sensible thing than income effect. If you restrict the, if you make this curve flat, if you restrict alternatives, if you kill substitution effect, then the entire effect will on income. That's what is happening now. Then when we increase electricity price, people get poorer. And people switch off their lights simply because that they are poor. They can't afford the light. They don't migrate into something. So now you all tap your heart and ask, what is better? You increasing the price and people switch off their lights. We have stories that children, because Kupilampo is not working, they go out and sit in under the street light and read. Now you all shut down the street lights also. Right? So that what where we are banking on. So the thing what we have to do is, when you kill substitutions, what happens is people become poorer, they cannot afford, they start shutting down their lights. So what is better? Him investing in a solar panel and going to provide his children with lights to study, or him to shut down these lights and curse the power sector. So that is the issue. The substitution, always economists and the market operators always try to keep these substitutions in place. That's a self-regulating mechanism. You don't kill substitutions, you promote substitutions. Because through the substitutions that your price, this flexibility occurs. That's number one. Other thing is, as you very correctly said, you cannot. Substitutions or no substitutions, you can't go keep on increasing. You can hit only that maximum is that monopoly. More than that, you can't go. So you always should come down the prices, because this is in that microeconomic environment. It is competing within the product market and the factor market. So that we have to very clearly understand. So we cannot keep on escalating the prices. So even though I am a strong advocate in increasing the price and making CB profitable, my other part of person who knows economics tells me that you can't do it ever. You can do it for short time. You can hit your accelerator and just make a 20-30% increase, and recover your losses and bring the price down. That you can do, but not you can. Dentist can extract tooth from every day. He can extract tooth, but from different people. No, if you get one person and start extracting tooth every day, you are. So that we have to understand. Explain your question a wee bit.
In Amazon, for example, like they would offer, let's say, rebate or some coupons or some cross promotions, right? That will impact, let's say, like in the case of 20,000 or 15,000, somebody giving back, right? Now that would usually be given in the form of a coupon that has to be spent within the system itself. So it is slightly different. So now it is like in theory it is equivalent to like somebody giving a rebate on the consumption.
Yes, exactly. That is more of a rebate. Actually, what the cyberspace vendors are trying to do is they try to create, because as I told you, the markets, is first thing you need is a space. So there is an effect of space segregated markets as well. But usually what it happens is in a microeconomy, whether it is Delkanda Pola or it is the Vidiyadala market, prices are more or less the same. So how much you try to space out, how much you try to segregate based on space, this spatial segregation is not possible. Usually in a microeconomy, where vibrant microeconomy. But in cyberspaces, you can do that. You can segregate. And especially one modality of segregation is accumulated rebates. You have some credit points. So that's what supermarkets trying to do. They have a credit and people aggregate credits, and based on that, you give a rebate. So they are trying to make their supermarket segregated off from the usual markets. So that there are a lot of mechanisms like that. Market rebates and market promises, hedging, right? This is also kind of a hedging, isn't that so? So these kind of things, from good old days, from Mudalali's time, this is happening, right? So this hedging, that's all. Those are sometimes market the microeconomic wheels, two wheels. It's healthy, sometimes not healthy. So healthy practices must be promoted, and the unhealthy practices you must curtail. Now, if you happen to read a very classic academic document, highly academic document, called Sales of Good Ordinance in Sri Lanka. That's not a law, that's a thesis made by Lord Mackenzie. He studied his entire life of Roman markets, and he wrote the Sales of Goods Ordinance of Britain, where Sri Lanka got a photocopy of that and implemented. If you go there, all these market practices are mentioned. In the Roman markets, whatever the market practices, everything is mentioned there. And he has regulated those practices. So Sale of Goods Ordinance is more of a market regulation. So you have set up a law to regulate the market. So the rebate sort of thing is addressed there. So that's a kind of a market phenomena or market practice, which can go positive or negative depending on the way how it is being applied. looks questions are over. So I'll finish now. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Narendra, for an engaging and highly informative session. Your presentation has provided valuable insights into the evolving structure of the electricity markets, the importance of the market design, and the analytical tools used to understand market behavior and competition. And also, thank you all the participants for the engaging questions, insightful observations, and valuable contribution throughout the Q&A session. The discussion has certainly enriched today's program and provided further perspectives on the evolving electricity market landscape.